do this.
Alright, so we're going to do the honey garlic ferment. This is one of the best immune boosting ferments that you could actually have. Here I have some from my previous years. This is something I always have in my cupboards because it's just something that tastes great, works on your body, helps to strengthen your immune system, and you can pretty much put it on everything, in salad dressings, on stir fries, etc., etc. Honey garlic ferment consists of 2 ingredients, and they're both very, very antimicrobial. Not antibiotic, antimicrobial, which means they're selecting certain bacteria to kill away, and the other ones they leave there. So at the same time of this being antimicrobial, it's also probiotic, which means living and adding those good bacteria to it. So here you see my honey garlic ferment from earlier this year in January, and I have some pretty impressive ones. This is the last I have of 2016, and you can see how dark the honey has gotten. This is one I've made about last month, and you can see it's still quite light. It's the same honey, the same kind of garlic, and you can see the transformation happening here, and it's quite liquidy because it gets that way. And what's going to happen here is the garlic that we are going to use, there's a little bit of water in there. All honey is like super stable. This after water is the most stable liquid that we have. So as soon as water hits honey, that's when it begins to ferment. This is how people make mead, which is like a honey wine, or in our case, we're using the minute amount of liquid in a garlic to get into the honey and start the fermentation process. So don't worry about botulism, which for some people is a concern to have with honey and or garlic. This case with a honey garlic ferment, that's a 0% chance. That is not possible here. So what we need to do is separate the skins from the garlics. And as you can see in my previous examples, I didn't really cut my garlic up too much. You can cut it smaller if you want in order to get more surface area and for this ferment to go a bit faster. But as you see, I'm quite well supplied. I don't mind if it goes a little bit slower. I would say this ferment is the best after 1 month of fermenting. This is when all of those bubbles start to be released because there's a lot of sugar and honey, and all of this water that's being pulled out of the garlic is going to start making this reaction, and a thick honey will become very liquidy, very smooth, and bubbly as well. So I have my little jar, and I'm just going to load it up with garlics, as many as I can. If your garlic has some kind of like green stem in the middle, a little sprout, I would just suggest to cut it open and take that out because it adds to the bitterness of a garlic. That's also like a general rule when cooking. And there is some tricks that you can do with garlic if you put these all in a jar, at the state they're in right now, and start shaking them around. The oils in the garlic will help release the skins off. That's often why people crush garlic in the first place, just to get those oils pushing off the skin of the garlic. But if you don't mind your fingers smelling a bit garlicky, then doing it this way is also nice and therapeutic. So I can feel this garlic is nice and fresh. There's quite a bit of liquid in there. If there's anything kind of funky on your garlics, you can just slice that off. Quite juicy, I can see here already. So honey garlic ferment, this is something I drizzle on my toast, especially if I feel a cold or a flu coming on. This is definitely the ferment I reach for. Tastes great, has so many antimicrobial properties and immune boosting properties. This is definitely a go-to ferment. You can add it to salad dressings for that sweet and garlicky aspect, of course, as well. All right, and you can use all sorts of different honeys. Of course, recommended is a raw, organic honey, and it will just happen naturally, this fermentation process. These beautiful garlics. All right, let's see how many we can fit in here. You can decide how much you want because you can have it full of garlics or just halfway. The honey will be infused with that garlicky taste and smell. Couple more here. And this time, in the past I've been using normal clover honey. And this time I thought I would give it a bit of a different angle, and I'm using here a buckwheat honey. So it has a bit of a darker taste, and that'll add some dynamics to my garlic honey collection. If you want to go a bit more wild, you can add chili peppers to that. In one of them I here added mustard seeds to add another dimension. And so after you have your first basic garlic honey, you can really decide to do another kind with different flavors in there, different angles and different flavors and tastes. So, all right, I think that's good enough, about half full. You can fill it all the way if you want. And now I'm gonna drizzle this honey on there. It's a bit crystallized at the bottom, but that's also okay. That will be activated and turn very liquid in the next days. So I leave this room temperature, and actually even after the month of fermenting room temperature, I still keep it outside of the fridge. I don't need to put it in the fridge. It's basically preserved itself. All right, nice and thick honey. And we'll notice in the next days how liquidy it will become. And we'll need to burp it because there's going to be bubbling action, and it's going to be pushing the lid up just because of this whole yeast eating sugar, and there's a lot of sugar in here, creating bubble action will be happening. So there we go, just cover it all the way up, put the lid on, give it a label so you know when you dated it. And right now, obviously, it's quite thick, the garlics are at the bottom, but momentarily they're going to start floating to the top. And just like this one that I've done last month, they're at the top, and it's quite liquidy. The honey was also quite thick, but now you can see it's very, very liquid. And after some time, they will again float back down to the bottom because the air bubbles have been released, and they sink back down and are at the bottom and become these candied garlics. They're quite incredible. They don't have that pungent, sharp taste that a raw garlic would have. It has much more of a candied flavor, and it's been preserved like this. It's really one of those most amazing things you can put in a salad, and as a surprise have one of these candied garlics in there. So enjoy your honey garlic ferment. Try that out, be patient, and enjoy it for a long time to come after you've waited that month.